Okay, hello again, everybody. So we're back. We got another. So I feel like we're kind of like going through the '90s a bit, watching a lot of '90s stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this is another '90s like sci-fi action adventure movie. We're gonna talk about Stargate. So Stargate was a end of the movie. Like there's been a million TV shows, it seems. Of which have you seen any of the TV shows?
No, I knew there was a TV show. I've been told tons of times that I should watch Stargate, SG-1. Um, but I never did, honestly. But I didn't know that there was other movies about from it or made for TV movies and things like that, or that one of the main characters in Stargate SG-1 is actually a character in this movie. I had probably because it was recast, but I had no idea. None whatsoever.
It's like the Colonel, right?
Yeah, it's a Colonel.
Yeah. You're not getting Kurt Russell until not back in the day. Like now, maybe, yeah.
Oh, now I bet he would definitely do a TV show,
Yeah.
but not then.
TV's really kind of changed a lot. So this was directed by and written by Roland Emmerich. So Roland Emmerich, we kind of know him basically for Independence Day, right? And he did some other disaster movies. Like that's kind of his thing. It's like disaster movies and these kind of. He also did this movie about like, and kind of these weird conspiracy theories. He did this one movie about, like they presented the idea that Shakespeare didn't write his plays. Like that's kind of a common, like thought amongst people, like that either he didn't write them or like someone else wrote them, or that Shakespeare is not even like a real person or something.
Yeah, I know someone very close to me who believes that.
Yeah, those. I mean, it's like what? I mean, there's, I mean, he had co-writers on some of the stuff.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I definitely don't think he wrote them alone, but
there was a Shakespeare, and he wrote the plays.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and we'll get into the conceit of this film was also kind of a conspiracy theory, in a way. So
Ancient aliens, anyone?
Yeah, ancient aliens. Like this is
it's a Stargate.
So yeah, aliens. So they like built the pyramids, guys.
Probably, actually, whatever.
Yeah, who knows? All right, so Stargate from 1994. So this movie, it starts off in Giza, Egypt, in 1928, and they're doing this excavation, and it's this. I don't know. Are they like German or something? I think it's like Germans.
They're either German or, they might be German. It didn't sound entirely German to me, but there was a lot of people coming over from Europe who were digging up Egyptian dig sites and stuff like that. Like the British were doing that a whole bunch. So
yeah, some Europeans are there, and they found this gate. They found this thing, this object, and they, they were looking at it. Seems like they didn't know what to do with it. And we get this character, Catherine. She's like really young, and she like picks up this medallion that has this sort of hieroglyph icon on it. And that's the way it starts. It's like, okay, so in 1928 they dug up this thing, but they don't know what to do with it. They don't understand it yet. And then we go to the present day, so basically 1994. And so we see James Spader. He's at this like, it's like a conference, I guess, of like other PhDs, and he's purporting his theory, which is that the pyramids were built not by the Egyptians, but by someone else. And everyone kind of makes fun of him. He's like, so you're saying it was built by aliens or Martians?
It's like, well, maybe. He does mention that. I mean, I've heard this theory, or this, yeah, it's a theory, like basically reported before, like there's no way man could have physically made these structures, essentially, which is, that's interesting. I you know how I feel about aliens, so like I'm open-minded about anything. I think it's all pretty cool, whether I believe it or not. But it's a neat idea. It's neat. I kind of got hooked right there, honestly.
Yeah, I mean that's basically what they're playing with. Is like, you know, if something else built the pyramids, what do they build them for? Right. That's like the big question.
Exactly.
If that were the case, they would have to have some other purpose, right? And so yeah, and the purpose is, you know, well, we'll get to that, but yeah, it's aliens, right? Like that's that's the big thing. Oh, it's aliens. The aliens did it. Yeah, and so yeah, they all make fun of him, and they just walk out on his lecture. They're like, yeah, we're done here.
Yeah, pretty much.
This guy doesn't make any sense. And then Catherine comes and meets with him, and basically is like, hey, we have a job offer for you. And he's like, oh, well, what's the job? It's like to translate Egyptian hieroglyphs. And he's kind of like, well, why should I take the job? It's like, well, you're broke and you've run out of money. So
you're broke and all your colleagues think you're a whack job. I'm throwing you a lifeline here, dude.
Exactly. He's not like on top of things, right?
No.
His life is kind of messed up.
Just a little bit. Ellie, lay down. Lay the paws down.
Yeah. So then we get this scene with Kurt Russell. So this guy, Colonel Jack O'Neill. And they're like, this scene was it was interesting. It was a little on the nose. I'm wondering I'm curious what you thought about it.
Oh, it was dark.
Yes.
It was a very dark scene. Like, I thought this was, maybe I didn't think the movie was going to be lighthearted, but I was like, this is about like ancient alien shit and this poor guy. Oh my God. I felt really bad for him.
Yeah, and he's just sitting in his son's room, looking at all of his son's stuff. Like his son, you know, like he played baseball and he, you know, just
a good kid.
What kids do. And these two people come and they say, oh yeah, you've been reactivated. And then he like, when they come in, he hides a gun.
He's like suicidal. This guy's definitely walking a fine line.
He was about to do it, right? Like
she grabbed her toy. So yeah, she got her toy. Sorry.
Yeah, he was like, it seems like he was about to do it. He was about to end it. And then they're like, oh, well, you got to go back to work. And he's like, oh, can't do it yet.
Which I think is interesting because it gives him like a purpose, like going back to work makes him distracted from his son's death. And it's really sad because I remember hearing and then eventually, you know, seeing it, watching it in The Sixth Sense of like children accidentally shooting themselves was kind of I don't want to say it was a thing because that sounds horrible, but it was something that I definitely like heard about and was warned about because my dad was a gun owner. So it's a big fear and it's terrible.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a thing. It happens way too much. You're like accidentally shooting someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
obviously he feels responsible and he feels like it's his fault. So. Yeah,
I mean, you have to be careful. Like that totally happens. And so then we go to this military installation in Colorado. It's Creek Mountain, Colorado. And so Daniel's there. He joins this team of other scientists. And then they have this sort of transcription of stuff that someone mistranslated. And so then Daniel retranslates it. And basically the long and short of it is that Ra created the Stargate. Ra, you know, like what the Egyptians called the sun god is, you know, I guess, again, it's an ancient alien, right?
No, and I like it that Ra's name is Ra. He's like, that's his alien name. Like the Egyptians didn't just come up with it. He was like, no, this is my name and I'm kind of the best. So
yeah, and you will get to the whole way they depict this alien god person, which is really kind of interesting and cool. Yeah, the other point in this scene, basically they say like the hieroglyphs are over 10,000 years old. So they're like super, super old, older than they expected or whatever. And so, yeah, again, all signs point to ancient aliens, right? So then our friend Kurt Russell comes in and he totally takes over the project. It's like, okay, everything's classified. You know, I'm taking over. No more information needs to be spread. You know, the typical.
Yeah, and he has the most military-looking haircut to prove it. Like,
He looks like, what was that character in Street Fighter? Remember him?
I wasn't thinking of that one. It was another character that Kurt Russell played where I think he had the same exact haircut. He was like a
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Like he was like
the soldier.
Soldier. Yeah, it was like I think it was called Soldier.
That movie's depressing. Oh my god.
Wasn't he like a robot in that?
He's not a robot. He basically, the premise of Soldier is that they take children when they're very, very, very young, and then they put them in these really hyper, intense situations where they have to. It's basically Lord of the Flies, you know, survival of the fittest. There's scenes where these kids are just like beating the crap out of each other. It's a really sick movie, but he gets trapped on this place. I think it's post-apocalyptic or something like that. I can't really remember, but
yeah, he gets dumped.
It's a really sad movie from what I remember. For an action movie, it was really depressing.
Yeah, you're that is certainly what he looked like.
Yeah, he looked exactly the same.
Yeah, he looked exactly the same. Like very kind of clean cut, like symmetrical. Everything's like in order. Yeah, and so then Daniel sort of realizes like the hieroglyphs are actually sort of like a star map, and basically you have to like kind of set up the hieroglyphs in order to tell the gate go to this location. That was the thing that people had not been able to figure out. And so basically it's like, you know, our location go to this other location, and the hieroglyphs tell you what the other location is. And so each hieroglyph is a different sort of point in a 3D axis. So there's 6 points to get you to wherever you're going, and then the 7th point is where you're starting to get you to send you from point A to point B. Yeah, so then he figures that out. They then do what he says. They activate the Stargate, and you know, we get this whole thing where the Stargate does its thing. Yeah, so what do you think about this first time we see the Stargate actually work, and they put that drone or whatever into it?
Oh, I thought it was pretty cool. You know, just like the whole them going through the wormhole themselves. I thought was interesting because I feel like every filmmaker has their own way of wanting a wormhole to look, because we don't know what's inside or what the trip is going to be like. And I liked this one. This one was pretty good. They're not in a spaceship or anything like that going through it, so I thought that was kind of neat. But I would have liked to have seen like what their bodies are going through when they're going through the wormhole itself. But maybe for budget reasons they didn't show that. I'm not sure, or maybe they just didn't know how they wanted to make it look.
Yeah, and when he actually goes through the gate, it kind of reminded me of Contact. Similar kind of way of trying to depict it, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and then again, very different from like what we saw in Interstellar, right?
Yes.
Interstellar, you're seeing like space warped in this tube.
No, and that's one of the things I like about the Interstellar interpretation is that they're not falling, but they're also not. They're not falling straight down. You know what I mean? It's not like they're going down like a water slide or anything like that. But you're still having movement, basically. Only you're not sure what the direction is in particular, because reality is warping. It's folding over on itself and stuff like that. So that's why I really like Interstellar's portrayal of that. But this is still kind of fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is a very kind of fun take on all that stuff. Yeah. So the gate opens. They send in a probe. The probe is able to inspect what's on the other side. And they see that there's different markings. And so because of that, they would not be able to get back because they don't understand how to activate the gate on the other side. Because you got to activate the gate on the other side to get back. You can't just like keep it open. But then Jackson says like, oh yeah, I can interpret the symbols, no problem. Yeah, just send me along. And so then they do. And so then he's a part of this military reconnaissance mission. And then they go through the Stargate. Yeah, and then, yeah, we get all that fun stuff. I guess we should talk about, for a little bit, like, this whole ancient aliens theory and like how the pyramids were built, as far as we understand currently. One thing I would say is I think people should not underestimate the ability of human beings. Is what I would say. The other thing too is like the Egyptians, basically that was like their thing, was building these pyramids. Like their entire economy, not their entire, but a lot of it was used to build these pyramids. And so that makes it a lot easier to do that when it's like I remember like a friend of mine, she was telling me like, you could like so like let's say that someone stole something, right? They would say, okay, you can either go to jail or you can build the pyramid. So like their whole society was based around building these pyramids. And when you have that level of economic activity around doing one thing, like, yeah, you could figure it out, no matter how long it took.
But why and for what?
Because like there was some guy who was like, yeah, I'm gonna build this thing for my afterlife. Like they really believe that. They really believe this religion, basically. I mean, that's really what it's basically, religious reasons. Oh
God, yeah, and people do a lot of crazy things for religious reasons.
Yeah, it's like the same reason why you build these massive churches and massive mosques and these other. I mean, even the stuff that's built in Asia, like some of these Buddhist temples and these other things like that. They're like pretty awe-inspiring.
Very much so.
But yeah, I mean, the pyramid is just kind of the same thing. It's just way, way before, and the scale is really larger. But they look totally different, like when they built them, right? Like they were totally smooth, and at the top there was gold and all this other stuff, and all that's been stolen.
Of course.
But yeah, I mean, I just think that it's certainly, to me, it makes sense that they'd be able to do it, especially. I mean, it's not like they built these things. They say Rome wasn't built in a day. The pyramids were not built in a day either.
Oh no, very true.
They spent, I don't know. I'm not even sure, like 50 years or something like they spent a long time on it. Yeah, but I mean, it's been so long, right? There's just some things we don't know.
Oh yeah, and I don't know if we'll ever actually know. And I feel like there's supposed to be some if you uncover everything, what's the fun in like wonder? You know what I mean? It's just like, I like to think about the why. I don't always need to know.
Yeah. So I mean, that's it obviously, the whole theory has become very popular, right?
Oh, incredibly popular.
Like incredibly popular. Like that guy, not only was that guy a meme, but that was basically the History Channel, right? For a while.
Yeah, the History Channel, I used to enjoy watching the History Channel, but then it all just became about Jesus and aliens, and I'm like, you can't have both, okay?
Yeah,
like,
it was Jesus, aliens, and Hitler.
Yeah, and I'm like, is this your holy trinity? Like, of Jesus, aliens, and Hitler, basically?
Yes,
like, and they have some really crazy things on there that I don't know. I don't know if it's just based on rumor sometimes or based on actual science. Like I remember seeing one about how one of Hitler's top Nazi scientists wanted to breed apes and humans together to create an ape-human army.
Yeah, I think that might be true, actually.
Which, like, I mean, maybe it's a little bit true, but I'm like, to devote an entire hour and a half long special to it, to like this, maybe he wanted to do it, but he didn't actually do it because that's literally impossible. It's just, I feel like the History Channel lost some credibility with some other programming, personally.
Yeah, that reminds. Did you ever see or did you hear about that movie Overlord?
I did not know.
Okay, Overlord is about zombie Nazi, well, like mutant zombie Nazis, pretty much. It's like a B movie.
kind of over Nazis. I think they all just need to go away. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Yeah, so the mutant Nazi is that's like a super B movie trope.
I mean, they were zombies basically. They were just following the leader and all that other crap.
Yeah, exactly.
God, such horse shit, stupid Nazis.
It is stupid. All right, so anyway, so they go through the Stargate. We get this cool scene where he goes to the Stargate. And then they arrive on this Earth-like planet with a pyramid, and they're in a desert. This planet has like 3 moons, which is cool. But then Daniel, he gets there, and they're like, okay, so we got to go back or whatever. And he's like, I can't align the Stargate without finding the other pyramid. And they're like, what? Like, yeah, I don't know how to get back because I don't know
Little twerp.
I don't know what the glyphs are. And they're like, you idiot! You screwed us over. So they're stuck. They're stuck until they can find it.
I would also just like to point out that like they didn't know if they were going to get to a planet or a place that had oxygen. They had no idea where they were going. They just put on fatigues and guns and they just went through it, which is so. I feel like that's such a 90s thing for like that involves the military. It's like, yeah, we're just gonna put on our camouflage and a giant gun and just go through a wormhole.
Yeah, you would think that they would at least just like do a throwaway thing with the drone. Oh, it has Earth-like qualities. It's like
exactly anything like that, but they don't know. They're just kind of like, we'll just go through it. What's the worst that could happen? It's the 90s. Like,
it's bad. I mean, you would never do that unless they knew. Like they would have to know.
Exactly, they would have to know. But I just kind of thought it was a little funny. I'm like, hey, okay.
I think honestly, even if you knew in real life, they wouldn't let you do it because there's too much risk. Like there could be okay, right? We're living in a world where there's coronavirus, and they're gonna walk over there and get the Andromeda strain or whatever and get killed.
I know, right? Like, especially knowing what we know now about like viruses or bacteria and stuff like that. You're telling me you're just going to walk through a wormhole and not have any kind of protective gear, no breathing apparatus because you don't know, again, if there's oxygen or they didn't even have a tether, like any kind of like little tether or something like that. Like I would have been fine with that, but like
there's no way because they could die first off, and second off, even if they lived and came back, they could then have a disease.
And
right?
even again with time too, because Interstellar touched on this as well. They don't know how long they're actually going to be gone. What if they got back and it was just like this like an alternate ending would have been great of seeing like them get back and it's just like a dusty old room and they don't know how much time has gone by.
Well, what would be funny would be like they get back and then, well, this would be kind of interesting, but like the dude with the glowing eyes, like it's an alien.
Mm-hmm. He's like, something. I came back while you were gone.
Yeah. Totally. Time is relative, so they could go through the Stargate, and for them it's a second. For Earth, it's 10,000 years or what? You know, could be anything.
You can even do something. 10,000 years. You could do something smaller where it's like 10 hours if they're gone for 2 days. That's a long freaking time. You know what I mean? So like. I think that would have been interesting if they played with that a little bit. But, I mean, if they had done something like that, there obviously probably wouldn't have been TV shows and other movies or whatever. But I think I wish they kind of had touched on that a little bit to see if time was still going to be the same. But, oh well.
Mm-hmm. That would have been interesting going into the relativity aspect. But yeah, this movie is all just about the adventure, right? And
which is very 90s, which is very, very 90s. Don't give me too much hard science because my audience is going to lose interest.
Yeah.
Which is why we have movies like Contact to go into the hard science of these things. But
Exactly. Okay, so then Jackson finds this creature. It looks like a bantha, basically, from Star Wars. Yeah, but it's this animal, this is big ox kind of thing. But it's domesticated. It has like a saddle and like a sort of like a leash or whatever. And so then he like tries to befriend it and he feeds it some candy. And then they scares the bantha thing, and then it drags him off somewhere. And then O'Neill and some other people, they kind of go after him. So they're going way away from their base camp. And then they find this civilization of humans, other humans that are digging stuff, and they're doing whatever. And so yeah, this planet has other human beings, other Homo sapiens on it, which is interesting.
Not what they were expecting.
Yeah. And so then Jackson, they're like, okay, hey Jackson, go talk to them. You're a linguist, right?
Yeah, you're a linguist. You can obviously understand what they're saying. No problem.
Yeah, go talk to these people from another planet. Of course, that's easy for you, right? It's like, yeah. No. Oh. So, yeah, he goes and talks to them, and they see his medallion that has that little sort of hieroglyph on it, and they all just like bow down to him, like he's God or something. And they're like, "Oh, what'd you say to him?" Jackson's like, "I didn't say anything. I just said hello." And so then they bring out their elder, who's this guy from The Mummy.
Yep.
And then they kind of make nice, right? They kind of like, "Oh, I give you water," and like, "Oh, I give you candy," and then it's like, "Oh, you come to my tent, and we, we'll have dinner.
We'll break bread and make merry."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so basically, what they find is that these people are digging the same material as the Stargate, and like that's like the whole purpose of what they're doing is what it seems like is like perpetuate whatever is building these Stargates, whatever entity it is. Yeah, so what do you think about like this whole sequence where we find these other people, these other humans, and kind of the way our main characters interacted with them?
By first contact standards, I think it could have gotten worse. I think the last thing you want to do is to be assumed to be a god of any kind to a new civilization. But that's not Jackson's fault. He's just wearing the medallion. He doesn't know entirely. Although I probably would have taken it off at some point. But yeah, it's a cute first contact scene. There's mistakes that happen, and there's corrections, and there's some comedy thrown in there as well. But all around, it was pretty neat. I do like when it comes up a little bit later during this scene of like talking and him trying to they're trying to understand each other when he tries writing something, and they're very like they're not necessarily offended, but they get very defensive when he tries to make a illustration in the sand.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like he tries to sort of like when they're having dinner, he tries to sort of draw something to communicate, and they're like, no.
Big no, don't do that.
Don't do that. He puts the little symbol in the dirt, and the elder just like kind of erases it, basically.
Which actually does give a form of communication to Jackson. That's something he can interpret in and of itself, even though they can't communicate by drawing or writing. It still gives Jackson a peek into what this culture is like. Okay, they don't like illustrations, they don't like writing, so maybe they are just an oral history type of culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they like epic poetry, that kind of stuff. Wasn't there a Next Generation where there was the Enterprise intervenes in some planet for some reason, and then they end up thinking that what's his name is God?
Yeah, so it's a not prehistoric, but it's a prototype or a proto kind of like Vulcan Romulan civilization, and they're kind of just at the wheel and fire stage, and they're being observed by Starfleet behind a kind of like a force field that's like invisible, but something goes wrong, and they're kind of exposed for a moment, and they see someone who is a Starfleet officer, and they beam someone who's injured to the ship, and the guy wakes up and he sees Picard, who's an authority figure, giving orders and stuff like that, and he's like, we must worship the Picard, Picard basically becomes like this god to them, and he's like, this is not good, this is the opposite of every first contact rule and everything like that. But yeah, that's one of them.
Yeah. So how did they resolve that? Because like basically someone thought he was God, and
it's honestly, I kind of forget. I think he kind of just has a talk with the guy who's stirring the pot the most, because the guy who's injured gets sent back basically. And he starts talking about, the Picard and everything like that. And I was in the sky and blah, blah, blah. I think Picard basically, I think, just tells him, shut the hell up. Not really, but I think
they just have a talk.
I think they just have a talk of some kind, but I kind of forget. It seems like something Picard would have just dealt with by talking to the guy.
Okay. Well, yeah.
There's a lot of Star Trek episodes. Sorry.
Oh no! It's all good, because I'm pretty sure that's basically what happens. Is like he kind of gives him a talking to, and the guy kind of gets over it. And that's kind of something that kind of sort of could happen here, right? Like, he is a linguist. He could just talk to them and be like, "Hey, I'm not God. I'm just a dude." So
yeah, exactly, because that's one of the things, is that like, oh well, you have all this technology, you are God, like you're above us, like literally, like you're above us. And Picard has to be like, no, we're just people. We've just advanced, and one day you'll get there too.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. So the other thing too, we see in the scene with the food and stuff, and like I guess they cooked the bantha, and the banthas taste like chicken.
Cool.
Or whatever the thing was that they were eating. So then there's this romance that starts with Shuri and Jackson. Yeah, we'll get into that. That should be fun to talk about.
There has to be romance.
Yeah, there has to be adventure and romance and aliens. Everything anyone could ever want. So then the village elder shows them, like, in their, so there's actually I don't know if you call it a town or like the place where they live is kind of, feels like a very feudal kind of society, basically. But they have their little camp, and they take them to this place where they show them the emblem that exists there at their home. And so that's the same one as the thing that Jackson has. So it's like, okay, this thing is around, and it's on different planets. So that's kind of interesting. And so then they get hit by a sandstorm.
Of course.
Yeah. And the sandstorm kind of messes up base camp, so they have to like leave their base camp because it just got hit with sand, and they can't save it. So then the people at base camp are going into the pyramid, and they are sort of like, they're separated and they can't really communicate with each other. And then we get the scene where like they take Jackson, and they, like, him and these women, they like try to wash him off or whatever.
Of course.
And then we get this kind of weird, awkward thing with Shuri where there's like, it's like this, I don't know, arranged marriage kind of deal or something.
Here, our women, take our women.
Yeah, this is our best woman. You take her.
Yeah.
No, you don't like her? You don't like her? What? What?
We can get you another one, but she's not going to be as good, bro. Like, she has no choice in the matter anyway, so it's fine. It's okay.
Yeah. So, okay. So then, like, after the whole miscommunication with the whole, I offer you my daughter, but it's like, I'm not about the arranged marriage thing, guys. Sorry. So then they're like, okay. Shuri and him are kind of trying to communicate, basically. And then Shuri draws the symbol for him. And she says, oh, yeah, like, I've seen that basically, and it's like, oh, can you show me where it is? And the two of them go off. And then back at the base camp pyramid, we see a spaceship kind of like land on top of the pyramid, which is cool. And the other soldiers just start getting killed or something by some kind of thing. And then in the end, we see is this dude with like the Anubis head kind of thing, like the dog head, with like a staff, just beating him up.
Eyes. That was pretty cool. I actually liked how the Anubis like heads looked and everything. I bet that was heavy though. I bet that costume was very heavy.
It was really cool though. Yeah, it looks really cool. Yeah, I bet you like there was multiple people basically holding it up and articulating it.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, because the eyes kind of move. Parts of like the head dress moves a little bit too, which I thought was pretty neat.
Yeah, it was really cool. So it's like just sort of saying, okay, this is where all those myths came from, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Shuri brings Jackson to the cave, and she helps him learn their language. And so then they're kind of talking and communicating. And the other thing too is like, okay, so basically the way that it kind of works is like these hieroglyphs. There's like a pyramid, and then there's like a moon symbol over the pyramid that represents different planets. So the one for Earth is just the pyramid and a circle over it. The one for their planet is a pyramid with 3 circles surrounding it. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, and so this is what's kind of funny to me about this whole movie. So like, again, we get this more of the stuff at the pyramid, and then basically this whole thing is like he's basically a mutant apocalypse.
Yeah. Not good.
Right?
Not good.
Like that's literally the plot of this movie is like the ancient alien apocalypse from the X-Men. Is actually an alien. He created, instead of a mutant, he's an alien. He created these things that teleport people to other planets. And his name is Ra, and he possessed a human body in order to live forever. And so Ra is now like a 14 or 12-year-old boy?
14, 15, somewhere around there. But yeah, and he transported a whole bunch of ancient Egyptians to his planet this other planet basically, so that he could like rule them, because he got kicked out basically.
Yeah, he got kicked out of Earth.
Yeah, there was like a rebellion, and they were like, nah bro, we don't want you and your weird freaky deaky little powers, get them. But we're still gonna worship you, we're still gonna build pyramids and worship you and stuff like that, probably out of fear. I'm assuming out of fear, so that he wouldn't come back maybe. But that's something that I was thinking about. I'm like, okay, if this ancient alien myth is like real, and Rob was just this alien dude, but they still worshipped him even after they rebelled against him. I mean, I guess there could be like zealots who still really wanted Ra to come back and stuff like that. But I was thinking of that too. But I was watching it, I was like, I feel like I've seen this before in something else with the whole like X-Men Apocalypse thing.
It's straight up X-Men Apocalypse, because even in Apocalypse, like, it's basically the same thing. He's just trying to like be stronger or live forever, and he does that by absorbing different mutant powers. This guy, he just like,
pardon me,
he just finds another kid to swap his body into, and he's just always a preteen or whatever.
Yeah, that scene was really creepy with these, like, you don't really see like Ra as himself too much, like his real form. But it's kind of creepy, like, and that his sarcophagus is really just a place for him to like rest and hang out and rejuvenate and stuff like that.
Yeah, he's created this like hyperbaric rejuvenation chamber that can heal his body, his human body. And yeah, that's why he takes humans, is like they're easy to repair for his technology, at least. Yeah, and so that's also why he outlawed riding on this planet that they're on, so that they couldn't, I guess, learn or whatever, and kind of.
Yeah, so they couldn't revolt again, basically. So he outlawed like basically writing and reading and everything like that.
Mm-hmm. So so our main characters kind of return to the pyramid, They find that the base camp is gone. They see the spaceship. They kind of go back into the pyramid, and then they again also get attacked by these, Egyptian guard dudes or whatever they are.
The Anubis guards.
Yeah. And then also the nuke is gone, so that's bad.
That's bad.
Yeah.
Also, I'm wondering, so like if Ra's an alien and he started this whole thing on Earth with the Egyptians, does that mean all the other Egyptian gods are aliens? Or is he the only one that's like
they don't really address that, right? It seems like it's only him.
Unless he started, maybe unless Anubis and all these other Egyptian gods are people because his planet's dead, like his original planet, right? Or something like that. So maybe he just told the stories of his other fellow alien people. Not sure.
I think what they kind of imply in this movie is that people interpret these guards to be the other gods.
Okay. Like demigods almost.
Yeah, that's what it seems like. Because, like, that one guy, he has the Anubis head. I think I don't know if we see, it would have helped also if they, like, showed, someone that looked like Horus, like the hawk head.
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's what it sort of feels like they're implying, is that he took these guards, he, like, gave them all these weapons that are very advanced. Like, they have, like, laser staffs and stuff. And they wear these really articulated armor. And so, yeah, I mean, a person would think, oh, that dude's a god too, right?
Probably, yeah. That's a good point, yeah.
So then they get taken before Ra and all this other stuff. And then the colonel's like, okay, I'm not having this. He tries to assassinate Ra. He, like, steals the staff from a guy. And he's, like, about to shoot him, but then can't kill the kids.
Yeah, I thought that was like a dick move by Ra. He's like, oh, okay. Just puts kids in front of himself with his human shield. I'm like, you sick bitch. You sicko. Yeah, first of all, you're a pervert because you got a bunch of half-naked kids running around like serving you and shit like that. But then you use them as a human shield. Like, what a twerp. I hate that. This is a
scummy alien. This is a really scummy alien.
Oh, yeah, he's a really scummy alien. And he understands how human beings work. He knows he's not going to kill a kid. He gets it.
Yeah, so basically Jackson ended up taking a bullet for Ra, I guess, or something. Like, someone got shot at, and then Jackson's like, no! He kind of saves him. And so then the colonel, he gets dumped in this, I think the term is like oubliette. I think that's the term for that type of prison. Where
like
you're like
in the water, but it's like in a prison, basically.
Yeah. I think so. It's like basically where you're like, yeah, you're underneath something, but then like the gate is on top. I think that's the term for it. But anyway, so he's sent there, and I guess the good news is a bunch of these other people are alive. They didn't all get killed. They just got dumped in there. So then Ra gets mad, so he sends his Air Force to like do a
remember who's in charge.
Yeah, exactly. It was just kind of interesting too, because I forget, the Gulf War was like 91, right? It feels a little Gulf War-y to like have this alien basically carpet bomb some people that are very kind of
vulnerable, primitive, yeah.
Because like they stand no chance against these spaceships. Right?
No,
they're shooting lasers.
No chance against anything. They can't read. They can't write. It's amazing that they even have a verbal way of like communicating with each other. That Ra even allowed them to have that. But yeah, he pulls his big stick out and starts beating the ants with it.
Yeah. So then Jackson, he wakes up in this healing chamber. So from here, basically, we know that Ra has the technology to regenerate humans totally. And so then, the two of them talk. They have this nice little chit chat about he divests his plan. It's like, oh, I'm going to nuke you. I'm going to send the nuke back, and I'm going to make it more powerful. I'm going to destroy your planet, and then I'm going to go back, and I'm going to enslave you. Blah blah blah.
I'm going to be more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
I created your civilization. Now I will destroy it. Prove your loyalty by killing your companions, or I will kill you. Okay.
Because you're really driving a hard bargain there, Raw. There's no
So-
negotiating, nothing like that.
What'd you think of this actor who played Raw?
I thought it was an interesting choice because it's weird because maybe I shouldn't say weird, but I think it's interesting that he's very effeminate. He's clearly a man, but there's something very effeminate about Raw. Like he kind of can be maybe like a little gender fluid or something like that because he's clearly wearing a corset. Like that's a pretty tight golden corset that guy's wearing. But he has a very masculine, like that weird, creepy, like edited voice, basically.
Yeah.
But also kind of a one-dimensional villain. Like I want to enslave you. I want to blow you up. I made you. I can unmake you. Kind of a thing. I didn't feel bad that his planet. He's a dick. I didn't feel bad his planet got blown up or something. Like, if all you want to do is enslave people, I don't care what your past is.
Mm-hmm. It was a little campy.
It was pretty 90s camp, but I feel like a lot of 90s villains were pretty one-dimensional like that, especially in like action movies like this. It's usually just an I want to end the world or I want to rule the world kind of scenario.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of liked it, but you're right. There was definitely a sort of like a gender fluidity there, like
which I liked about it. I thought it was an interesting. He wasn't just like this giant, like I was like a literal giant or something like that. He's very, hey,
yeah, for real.
Like he looks like he'd be going to the club like that. Like that's what it looks like.
Yeah, like he had some real swagger and kind of like,
oh yeah,
like yeah, just a very Prince kind of vibe, I feel like that's what
very Prince. Yep.
Going for it was like if Prince was an alien god thing who was also 14, what would Prince be like? Yeah, I think I'm pretty sure they kind of purposely wanted this type of interpretation for the character, but it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun and interesting. Okay, so then we see Shuri, and basically Shuri's like, okay, this stuff is BS. We shouldn't be letting them bomb us and do all and enslave us.
Yeah, and then Shuri gets a little pissed, and she's kind of like, yeah, this is bullshit. I don't like living like a slave, actually.
Yeah. Exactly. Actually, I really don't like slavery. This is bad.
Why are we worshiping this guy? What does he give to us? Like,
and there's also this other kid, right? Like, there's this other kid who's like a main character.
Yeah,
he's always around. Yeah, he's very spunky. He's very precocious. He's always around our main characters, and he's trying to learn from them. He's always mimicking. What's
the Colonel?
Name? Yeah, the Colonel. Mimicking the Colonel. Like there was a scene where he was smoking like the Colonel.
Yep.
The Colonel
when
gave
he inhales,
him.
He starts like coughing.
Oh yeah, like I guess that's one advantage. They probably did smoke stuff, actually, but they never. When did people invent smoking?
Well, it would have. The tobacco trade was like huge, but I don't know if tobacco was ever in Egypt. That's something I would have to Google. Honestly, I genuinely don't know if the Egyptians ever smoked tobacco.
Yeah,
I feel like it's a very not American thing, but
well, it kind of is a pretty American thing because that was like our thing for a long time.
Yeah, I thought the tobacco trade originated not maybe in North America, but some in that general part. God, I hope I don't sound like a dope right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm guessing that they had other things that they had.
Maybe opium, something equivalent to it.
Yeah, they're saying that there was a priestess from 1000 BCE, and they found traces of cocaine, hashish, and nicotine in her hair.
Damn, girl. In your hair.
Well, she was a priestess. Like, how do you think she got into that mental state?
Oh, yeah. She was like...
Shoot me up.
She was doing a couple lines. She was doing some lines and telling some fortunes, totally. She's like, okay, 1 second.
Okay, so Ra is an alien.
Oh yeah. I bet she was cool. Nicotine and cocaine. That's awesome.
The thing is, see, that's the thing about human beings, right? Like, we're all about chasing that thing, chasing the high, chasing the technology, chasing that thing that can give us some kind of a feeling. So you just have human beings out there. They're gonna find it.
Oh yeah, and your oracles or priestesses, man, you want your fortune told, you better bring her a little baggie, something.
An offering, right?
Yes, exactly, an offering of some kind. So they must have had something to get them, wired. Something.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So yeah, so now this rebellion is brewing. They're like, okay, we're done with this BS. And so then one of the things later we get revealed is that the colonel was actually on a suicide mission.
Mm.
He was going to get to the other side, arm the nuke everything that was there, and send everyone back.
Yep.
Which, kind of makes sense because it's like, okay, look, we don't know where this is going. We don't know what it's for. We don't know who's on the other side. And we don't want them coming here.
No.
So yeah, I mean, if you're just going to blow up the gate and just be like, okay, keep our planet from being invaded by God knows what.
Job well done, folks.
Yeah, because for him, he'd be like, oh, I get to die on this mission? Yeah, I accept.
Sign me up. I volunteer as tribute.
Yeah, I volunteered to die. Yeah, because he's still, and again, we keep seeing this stuff with the kids that he, like that one kid, the precocious kid, tries to take his gun, and he's like, no, don't take it.
Yeah, he freaks out a little bit
because he's traumatized, right?
Yeah, which I gotta say, like, those kids learned how to use those guns really fucking quick. Like, they had nothing to go on.
Yeah, I mean, look, guns. It's an easy thing, right? You point, you pull the trigger.
You point, you pull the trigger. Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't. I'm surprised they didn't hurt themselves. That's all. I'm just like, oh, this
no,
really bad.
I mean, and that's what he's worried about, right? Like the colonel, like we see the scene later where he's like, no, they can't do anything. Like you can't give them guns. What the hell are you doing? So, yeah. So then we get this whole scene where, yeah, Ra stole the bomb and he's going to then send it to Earth, but make it even stronger. And so it's, I don't know, going to blow up the whole planet or half the planet, something. Who knows?
At least decimate it so that they're scattered and don't really know. Some kind of, maybe not an extinction level event, because he obviously needs people to worship him. Let's face it, this guy's super narcissistic. Yeah. Like, one look at him and you're like, yeah, you've got a few disorders going on in there, sweetie. Yeah. Like, so maybe not an extinction level event, but at least enough where he can start from scratch. You know what I mean? Where he can
he can take his people from this planet and then take them back to that planet and just be like, yeah, do what I say. Yeah, so then we get this scene where Ra, again, going back to this actor, it's just really fun and kind of campy. He, like, one of the guards, so like the rebellion happens and so Jackson was supposed to kill the colonel and all the other soldiers, but then instead he kind of like, there's this turnabout. Yeah, the kids get the guns and they start shooting and everyone escapes. And so then Ra gets mad and he's like, okay, so, you kind of fucked up, bro. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I'm sorry, man. I'm really sorry. He's like, nah, man, you fucked up. And so then he kills him with some kind of.
He does like the brain thing that was really popular and still is. People love squeezing somebody's head until it either explodes or they drain their life force. Drain the life force, Ellie. So
he drains his life force or something. Who knows? It's a little gross, but it's also kind of, yeah. This whole thing with Ra is very fun and crazy, right? Like the way that they portray this character, it's just like you can't take it super seriously.
No, he also gets the crazy eyes really down.
Yeah,
like, yeah. That like manic. I'm gonna suck your brain out.
Yeah. Yeah. So then we see some more of the so basically after they got carpet bombed, they were like, okay, we're gonna go back to work. We're sorry, master. And so then our rebel friends the Rebel Alliance. They, I mean, that's kind of what it is, right?
It's a shoddy Rebel Alliance, but they're coordinating. They're going to unionize. They're going to be good.
Yeah. Yeah. So they kill one of the guards, one of these Anubis-headed guard dudes, and then Jackson shows him like, oh, this is just a guy. This is not,
He's not a god. He's just like you. He is breakable.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a huge moment for them because they've lived in fear of these guys because they can't get past the guards to get to Ra because they've been conditioned to believe that these guys are just as powerful as Ra, when in reality it's like they're really not. And when they get that validation of you can kill one of them, you can move on to the next level kind of a thing, it's a big deal for them.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And at that time they don't join them yet, but they see the truth, right? Which is that, it's just dudes with laser staffs. That's it. So then they go back to their rebellion kind of thing. They go and invade this pyramid. And so then they're fighting and doing all this stuff. And then they're like, oh, so then the colonel's like, okay, so you do the stuff and then I'm gonna fix the bomb. I'm gonna stop the bomb. I'm gonna get the bomb. So he gets the bomb and then he arms the bomb. He's like, you have 7 minutes.
It's like, oh, great.
I'm gonna die. I'm going to see my son in the afterlife. So you better get out of here in 7 minutes. It's like, no, dude, don't do that.
Which, like, 7 minutes in a movie is like 15 minutes because this thing goes on way longer than 7 minutes. That's what I love about like movie time. It's that it's never. I think there's been very few movies that when they say we have this amount of time, that it coincides with like the actual runtime of the film.
Yeah.
Which I get it. It's hard. You're trying to show multiple things happening at once at different times. But I always think it's funny when they're like, we have 10 minutes. I'm like, you've actually got 20 then. So.
Yeah. And so then Shuri gets shot. And then so Jackson's like, oh, shit, I got to do something to save her. So Jackson takes her up into the spaceship to get healed. And then outside the pyramid, the rebels and the soldiers are like battling basically the Air Force. The Air Force of Ra. And it's not working, right? No. Like,
they're doing their best, but they're pretty outnumbered and outgunned. Well, maybe not outnumbered, but definitely outgunned. Because there's definitely more civilians than there are his bodyguards and stuff like that.
Yeah. But their technology is so much more advanced that they can't really fight them off. So the other thing too, I think we should talk about is like the way that so Ra has this kind of outfit where he has that kind of like the sun thing behind him or whatever. That was kind of cool and interesting. They went with that because, like, again, like that's how the ancient Egyptians depict a lot of. I think a number of gods have that little thing behind them. Them little.
It's not really a halo, but it's kind of supposed to be like the sun and stuff like that, or some kind of depiction of it. What is? Okay, sorry. I thought she was drooling on me for a second. What is that? Sorry. But yeah, I also I don't know if it's actually called a headdress for Egyptians, but when Ra first appears also to Jackson, he's got like the face, like that very classic Egyptian like mask basically on, but they changed it ever so slightly to where it looks way more alien too, which I really liked.
It didn't look human. Mm-hmm.
No, because one of the things about like ancient Egyptian like aliens from like the History Channel is like, well, why did they have those giant headdresses on? Are they hiding a giant head or something? I'm like, it was to look cool, dude. Like a lot. Like, trust me, like I love the UFO things and I love believing in aliens because I think there's definitely something out there. But for God's sake, sometimes it's just to look boss. Like it's intimidating. It's very intimidating. If you're going down and you're going to be seeing the little people, you want to look as intimidating as humanly possible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the same thing with like, oh, why did they have the long beard? That was actually a tentacle. It's like
that was a look. Like beards were a look in different cultures. Like, I think you need to calm the frick down. Not everything's a tentacle. Not everything's a giant brain.
Yeah. I know, it's so funny. Yeah. So Okay, so then yeah, this whole thing, everything's going wrong. Like they're fighting the Air Force, but they're losing. Shuri got killed. So then Jackson like teleports him. So like they have this interesting system where you can like teleport up to the spaceship from the pyramid. So Jackson teleports himself up there, and then he basically puts Shuri into the like healing chamber. And then the Colonel is like there's a fight. Like Colonel's fighting some dude. They're fighting. At some point he beats him, and then he's like trying to disarm the bomb, but he can't. So in their infinite wisdom, the very intelligent people on Earth decided, yeah, let's make it so that they can't disarm the bomb.
Fantastic. Great American engineering right there for you, buddies.
Exactly.
I was waiting for them to see like a little banner that said "Made in China" or something like that,
Yeah.
or "Made in Utah" or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought it was fun. I actually did think it was funny that they couldn't actually turn it off. I'm like, that's not good.
Yeah. And so then finally, yeah, outside we see the cavalry arrive. Like the Elder brings all these people, and they go and they usurp and defeat Ra's men. And so yeah, they're able to win after a lot of people get killed. But yeah, I mean, so that's kind of triumphant. And so then Jackson has this idea, let's just teleport the bomb up to the spaceship. And so then Ra, like the spaceship thing kind of floats away. It's in space, but then they teleport the bomb up to him. And then, boom.
Yep.
He died.
I actually liked seeing the pyramid spaceship like floating over the planet. I thought that looked pretty cool.
The pyramid spaceship's really cool, I think, in this.
Yeah, because at first I wasn't sure if it was going to be kind of hokey looking or it wouldn't look very good. But seeing it floating over the planet I thought was a really good look. Yeah. I thought it looked good.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Because it's not just an Egyptian pyramid that we're used to seeing floating over a planet. You know what I mean? It's got some new designs associated with it that would also make it look like a spaceship too, which I liked. And some people have seen UFOs that are in the shape of triangles. So
There you go. Alien.
What are you growling at?
Oh, the mailman.
No, there's an alarm in the driveway. It's like a motion alarm, and it sets off this really high pitch, like, and if it's annoying to me, I can only imagine what it sounds like to her.
It's 10 times worse.
So every time it goes off, she just gets a little, and she also knows it means someone is here, and therefore she's like, I must fight. I must protect.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, how'd you like seeing Ra get blown up?
I thought it was funny because he's just like, what?
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, literally. It's like that little moment in Independence Day, which is very similar, where you see the close-up of an alien's face right before the bomb goes off on the mothership, which I also liked. And these aliens do look a little similar. You don't really see, again, Ra in his true form. It's really like in the shadows, but he looks like really emaciated and creepy looking. So it reminded me of that. And it's Roland Emmerich again, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he just kind of
gets that shot of the alien.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, the Independence Day alien kind of doesn't really react. He's just kind of like,
This little dog tilt.
Like, yeah. As it watches, like this little skull. I like that part in Independence. Like when it's, I love that. It's like, what?
Because of what I was like, it's like, why even have that? The alien's not going to know what it means. But it's almost like for David's old personal gratification, like Jeff Goldblum's character. He's like, I'm going to do it.
It's sending a message.
Yeah.
It's like, there's nothing better than sending someone a meme.
Yes, exactly. Like that's you, bro.
Yeah, that's literally what it's. Send them a meme and then blow them up.
Exactly.
They'll have no idea, but we memed them to death, literally. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then the good guys won. Jackson figured out how to get them back. Because basically he figured out the symbol for Earth is the pyramid with the one circle above it. And so yeah. So then they all go back, but he stays, which makes sense because on Earth he's like an idiot. There he's like
a god,
a hero. Yeah, a god, a hero. And he's basically found this really beautiful woman to be with. So like, yeah, makes sense he wouldn't want to go back. But yeah, the good thing is it seems like the Colonel's kind of gotten over the whole thing with the sun.
This whole death wish.
Yeah. And then they all go back, and the last thing we see is like kind of them going through the Stargate, and then that's it.
I did really like that last shot of Kurt Russell standing in front of the Stargate, and he's kind of in shadow, and it's got like this really pretty like blue light and everything, and you have the sphere around it, and he's just kind of in shadow. I thought that was a really nice look.
Yeah, it was cool. It was really cool. And so that was Stargate. So yeah, what'd you think? Did you really like this movie?
I definitely liked it. It's really long. I had to actually go back because I don't know if maybe I just missed something, because I did watch it on YouTube. It had ads and everything like that, but I still watched it, obviously. But I didn't have subtitles. So I had to go back and like find the subtitles for the scenes where Jackson is actually talking to Raw, because I had no idea what they were saying. I assumed he was giving them. I assumed he was the scene that follows that kind of clears up the fact that I didn't know what they were saying. But I kind of figured it was the evil plot reveal, like this is what I'm gonna do, because Raw doesn't sound very welcoming. So I did have to go back and like read that part of it. But no, I thought it was good. I think I definitely understand why it sparked off this fandom in particular, and why they made more movies, why they made a television show, because you have a Stargate that can go anywhere in the universe. Why not explore that? Whoa. You scared me, puppy. So yeah, why not explore that in other mediums and stuff like that? So yeah, I thought it was good. It kind of makes me want to watch the show, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, it really, there's a lot of possibilities, right?
Yes, there are. Endless.
The
universe is huge. Like it's endless.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and there's all these different planets, and it's basically implied that there's humans all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
This guy just like took humans and then took them all over the place so that he could, have them sort of, basically they're perpetuating his life cycle, and to create more Stargates. So it's just like Stargate,
Yep.
The other thing too is you get to have all these human characters too, like humans from different planets, different cultures, so.
Different languages. They can look different. They can behave differently. There's a lot of rich possibilities with all of that.
Yeah. So that was certainly something that's cool. I wonder, but like, what's the villain? Would there be another? Do you think there would be like another alien out there? Just like
definitely.
Raw?
More likely. I mean, if he's the only baddie in the universe, that's kind of a letdown. You know what I mean? Like, we need something to fight. We need an antagonist. We need something to overcome. Unless all they're doing in the TV show is liberating all of his former slaves, which is still, liberation's still cool, man.
Liberation would be cool.
Yeah.
So would you do you think it would be interesting to see another like movie or another TV show, like a reboot of the TV show
of Stargate?
Yeah, Stargate. Yeah.
Maybe the movie, because that's what I've seen. You know what I mean? Like, I haven't seen the show before, so I don't really know if if it needs a reboot. I feel like some shows definitely are worthy and deserve it. Like shows that ended too soon, or shows that ended on like a cliffhanger or something, which is why I feel like Serenity, the follow-up to the show Firefly, was so gratifying. But yeah, I'd have to watch the show to see if it would need a reboot. I feel like you could probably remake the movie and that'd be fine, because I feel like with the visual effects we have today, or even just practical effects, it would look really good.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious about the show. I think what's his name was on it, the guy who played Aquaman. He was in one of them. I think he was in Atlantis.
Oh, what was his? I forget his name all of a sudden. I know who you mean though. Yeah.
Yeah. Jason Momoa.
Yep.
Yeah, Jason Momoa was in one of these. I probably couldn't get him back, but there's some cool stuff there. Basically, there's some cool stuff there. Wasn't it on like the Sci-Fi Channel?
I'm pretty sure it was on the Sci-Fi Channel. Yeah.
Right?
I remember seeing like promos for it and stuff.
I remember the promos too. Yeah, like I remember the Kurt Russell character, the actor. I can imagine seeing the promo of him.
Yeah.
And then they're like doing whatever in the Stargate.
Yeah, they were always walking through it and being like, or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you feel like do you feel like you want to jump into the TV show, or just gonna sit on it and let it?
I think I'm gonna sit on it for a little bit. I'm not ready to commit to it. I'm still watching The Expanse, and I've just jumped headfirst right back into the MCU, so I won't be able to get my full attention to it. I don't think I'd be as invested in as if I didn't have anything else that I was planning on watching.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious, but I almost want to know like what. Like where does it take off from? Is it a sequel to the movie? Is it like almost like redoing the movie? Do they go to a different planet? Those are kind of the things I wonder.
Yeah, because it made me, because I had never had any interest in watching Stargate before this, and this made me be like, okay, there's something to it. Yeah. I mean, it was on for like 11 seasons or something like that. Like I remember when it ended, and everyone was talking about it. I'm like, I don't know. I think I was still watching Smallville at the time, honestly. But I don't remember.
Cool. Yeah. So do you have any last thoughts? Anything about, I guess, Roland Emmerich and kind of the stuff he does?
It's definitely a Roland Emmerich film, but it's different than Independence Day. It definitely is. There is an end of the world scenario, but it's not till the very end. I like the exploration element of it. I like the wormhole parts. I would definitely recommend it to anyone who just enjoys sci-fi. It's a good sci-fi movie. Yeah,
for sure. I would definitely recommend this too. I think it's fun. I think it's like, if just taking it in and of itself, it's a cute adventure movie. And the effects are like really good. I thought the effects of that spaceship pyramid was like really cool.
Yeah, I think it looks pretty good for coming out in 1994 and being an older movie. I think it looks pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. So I guess that covers it. So that's our review of Stargate from 1994. So thanks a lot, everybody. Take care, and may the force be with you.
Live long and prosper.